Welcome back to session 2 of day 3 of this 1 week AICTE IST Abroad refresher program on innovative teaching learning methods. And the topic of this session is designing learner-centric MOOCs. Again, the speaker, respected Dr. Kapil Kadam sir, as per his kind suggestion, as he has already delivered one session, we are not introducing him once again. So I request Kadam sir to guide the audience. Over to
Uh,
you, sir.
yeah, thank you very much, Professor. We can right away start with the session. Thank you. Can you stop
Yes,
sharing your
sir.
screen?
I stop, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Please, you can.
Thank you. Just share.
Yes, it is visible, sir. Please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good morning and very warm welcome to everyone. So today I will be speaking about learner-centric MOOCs, especially designing learner-centric MOOCs and a couple of elements of the MOOCs. This session would be more of informative, and there will be some interactions through chat, or if people want to, if participants want to, use their mic, they can use anytime to respond or ask questions. So broadly, the outline of this session would be what are MOOCs, I'll talk about, then what is the need for learner-centric approaches in MOOCs, then LCM model overview. Then there are four elements. There are different elements of LCM, and I'll be speaking about mainly LEDs, that is learning dialogues. So in that, I will talk about structure of LED, basic structure of LED, and then deciding different formats of the LED. Then we'll shortly take a look at the LED constructor. This will be self-exploration activity, and we'll check about some do's and don'ts. So let us start with introduction to learner-centric MOOC. So yeah, I said that I'll have less activities, but I would like to start with a warm-up activity where consider one scenario one, that is consider a class in 20th century, and then consider a class in 21st century. Okay, these are the two scenarios. You think about these two scenarios and come up with one difference between these scenarios, maybe with respect to students' access to information and teachers' role. Okay, you can take few seconds or a minute to think about your answer, and you can post your responses in a chat box, in a chat window. Yeah. Or if somebody wants to unmute and say, you are welcome to say that, not an issue.
Hello, sir. The teacher is like a mentor now. Now the role of the teacher is more as a mentor.
Okay.
Is if you compare the say the 20th and 21st. So now mentoring is very much necessary. This say in the last century or decade, you can say there was need to teach the students very detailed. Now detailing is not necessary. We should guide to the students one. The guiding is very necessary here.
Correct. I would agree on your point.
And we should introduce them a new technology there. That is very important thing. The mentoring is very important according to me.
Yes, point well taken, Professor. Thank you very much for your response.
Hello, sir. I would like to say something about it.
Yeah, please go ahead.
At present, generally role of a teacher is more related with such kind of the things which is not easily available to the students in Google platform. So teacher has to develop in that kind of the area that in which important of the teacher is reflected, not the importance of the Google should be reflected. So that major difference is observed in the 21st century. The teacher has to upgrade such that students should rely first on the teachers rather than Google.
Great. That's a very interesting point you mentioned. Thank you. Okay, so I could see a lot of responses in the chat box. I'll just browse through those responses. Few people are saying that absence of ICT tools in 20th century, teacher is a facilitator, role of teacher is becoming challenging as the students' access to information is increasing. Good point. Students' access to information is very easy. Now role of teacher is mentor, motivator, or counselor. Teacher is the mentor. Both have changed in 21st century. Okay. Role of teacher is to motivate students to become a member of society, not number of society. Okay. Influence of technology. Students have access to information from n number of sources. Correct. Lot of data available to students, but to facilitate knowledge is role of teacher. Teacher now acts as a facilitator. Yeah, I could see a lot of all of you have mentioned very good points, and I would agree most of them. And maybe I usually do, I would again try to compile your points and let me see what I have to say in my next slide. So I have a comparison chart here over here. So I would like to summarize these differences. In addition, or there will be some repetition of your points also. So if you think of 20th century class, all of us know that information was at prime, at premium. So there was no internet, expensive books were available, and limited access to the libraries was there, right? Hence, only those who had access to information and could transmit it effectively were highly valued. Correct? So most of your address something like this. So students were mostly listeners and note takers. They were absorbing information during lectures and they could do the practice later. So this is a very typical classroom scenario with respect to 20th century class. Now, as most of you have said, is like what happened in 21st century is information is no longer at premium. So there is a introduction to WWW, that is Internet, World Wide Web. So there are a lot of accessible videos, demonstration resources, right? Hence, it's not enough for teacher to only transmit the information. And also, like some of you have said, the difference between Google and a teacher, it's really impossible to compete with the internet, correct? And also it has become necessary for teacher to ensure that students are able to assimilate the information, maybe through appropriate and timely practices and instructional strategies. Right? So overall, I would, all of us are in agreement that there is a lot of differences in these two approaches. So why I am talking about these two differences? Because so MOOCs, that is massive open online courses, have been introduced in 21st century, and they have become very popular avenue, and especially for the diverse learners. Definitely the goal is to upgrade their knowledge and skills, correct? And if you could see the teachers who are new to create MOOCs, they normally tend to focus on the use of technology features, okay, and that is to mimic their classroom actions. So that was a very obvious way of transforming from 20th century teaching style to 21st century teaching style, correct? So broadly, if we have to talk about MOOCs in 21st century, what are the features or important points about MOOCs? So basically, it provides access to information anytime and anywhere. Okay. Also, the technology platforms that are available, they support scaling. And here, the instructor has a scope to provide the content or learning material in the form of videos, slides, some text, and other resources. And what students can do, the learners, they access this content and they do assessments. What are some existing platforms? There are a lot of platforms available like NPTEL, edX, Coursera, Udemy, FutureLearn. These are some, to name a few, right? Now, in continuation with that, suppose in order to create a MOOC, okay, suppose the teacher creates a lecture videos and then provides exercises, then clarifies queries, and this clarifies queries on discussion forums and does some assessment. What has this instructor missed? Can you think for a few seconds or a minute and can you respond to it in whatever possible way? You can use chat box or you can unmute yourself. So what do you think? What has the teacher missed in this particular scenario? Discussion and question answers. Basic concepts, okay.
Practical knowledge.
Practical knowledge, okay. Correct, I could agree. Two-way communication, yes. Feedback, great. Students' presence, yes. So you have tried to come up with few points, and I would like to add upon all these things. So basically, when I'm saying that to create MOOC, teacher creates lecture video. It is all about just creating videos, providing exercise and discussion forums, and doing some assessment. Okay, direct interaction with students is missing. Thinking process, providing thinking process could be missing. So to enhance these points, I would like to say that the missing part would be attention to learner motivation. Is there there is a possibility because you're not in a regular setting. Then possibly getting students to express their reasoning. Okay, there are some more points are coming up. Thinking and answering, students' curiosity, do they have their access in facts, facilities, connectivity? Correct. Okay. Yeah. So, and also the opportunities for immediate micro application, or could be some formative assessment, and some of you said like feedback. Okay. Then the missing part could be some explicit or specific activities to foster peer learning, especially. Okay. And the learner connect part, to ensure the learner connect during the MOOC, that could be the missing part. I'm talking about this particular scenario. And mostly, I would like to say that some established theories of how people learn could be a missing part. Okay, to concentrate on weaker students, yeah, possibly. So these could be, the possible missing part in this particular scenario. So what the traditional MOOCs they do? Definitely they provide, anytime, anywhere access to learners for certain things. Basically, access to information in the form of lectures and resources, access to assessment in the form of activities and exercises, and then discussion, access to discussion in the form of, with peers as well as to the teachers. Okay. So during the implication, internet is good at my side.
Yes, sir. Absolutely good. Absolutely. Yes.
Somebody's saying internet problem at your end. Okay. So in order to think about the implications of MOOC, there are certain common problems we can think of. Like this is something that all of us have been talking for last few minutes. So it could be low student engagement. Then there is a low participation in the discussion forum. Not every student participate in the discussion forum. Not everybody is well engaged. Then a low completion rate. There are chances that not everybody completes the course. Okay. Now, the problems of engagement, student engagement get worsen in MOOC settings when there is a distance, scale, and diversity of learners are all high, because there is a diversity in the learners and scaling is there. So these problems in engagement could be high. So to broadly talk about MOOCs in 21st century, I would like to summarize these points that teachers who are new to creating MOOCs tend to focus on the use of technology for mimicking their classroom actions. But also, it is necessary to be aware of technology affordances. It's really important to focus on the pedagogy part of how to use MOOC features effectively, like the way we saw in previous session. How can we use technology or ICT effectively to foster learner engagement and the learning process? Okay, so there is a need. So this results in the need for MOOC instructors, to have a new design principles and guidelines so that they can create their own learner centric MOOCs. So this is the whole idea of how LCMs needs to be designed. So in order to talk about this first point, what might go wrong if we just mimic a typical classroom? Okay, basically a typical classroom, you can recall the teacher centric class. So normally what happens in the typical classroom, the lecture could be 1 hour and may not be too engaging. Okay, the lecture and homework at the end is known to be not too effective. Then even asking questions in between, such that have you understood, what are your doubts, they may also only few students do respond to these queries. And like I said, these problems may get worsened for the diverse set of learners and scaling and distance points. So what is the takeaway for this particular thing? So takeaway is just don't try to mimic a typical classroom. Instead, incorporate some effective learner-centric approaches. Okay, so before we jump into learner-centric approaches, there are a few challenges and needs that I would like to talk upon. So if you could see this particular diagram, it's a funnel of participation. Okay, and you can think about the dropout rate. So here you know that there is the number of learners who are, the awareness is high, but registration, it could be less. Then students who actually do the activity gets reduced, and also there is a what I can say is less participation and less progress towards completion of the course. So these are the challenges of the MOOCs. And why? Because sometimes MOOCs are well organized and presented, but they could lack in a good instructional design. Similarly, the inadequate attention is given on existing research on pedagogy specifically. Okay, so this could be the challenges in MOOC settings. So this results in a need of learner-centric MOOCs. Why? So because it is not sufficient to focus only on the technology features, and it is also not effective to mimic a typical classroom, we need to incorporate some or appropriate learner-centric approaches using technology affordances. So this is why we need these learner-centric MOOCs. Now I have a very quick question for all of you. So I'm talking about LCM, learner-centric pedagogy, and all these terms. Though I'm assuming that everybody is familiar with this term of learner-centric pedagogy. I want to ask you is, what is learner-centric pedagogy or approach as per your understanding? Can you take few seconds to think and answer? You can unmute yourself, or you can simply post it in a chat window. What is learner-centric pedagogy or approach? case study method, one-on-one interaction, okay, related with real life problems, self-learning, interactive approach, activity-based method, flipped classroom. So just think about the way, as a participants or teacher, we all are responding in few keywords or few phrases. Teaching by PBL method, implementation of knowledge, quiz. So it's interesting to see the way, all of us are thinking and trying to a customary approach that will facilitate students. Keeping learner interest at priority. That is a good point. Focus on learner. Okay, so that's what happens, when we just respond in terms of what I can say, just phrases or keywords. So if I have a full statement, thinking from student side and making activity accordingly. This is a good statement. Activity based, okay. Activity based teaching. Learners should be engaged in in-class activity. Correct. Assigning topics for seminar, okay. We must assess learners to find suitable pedagogy. Okay, making students work in team to solve problems. I mean, to solve given group problems. Okay, you can stop responding. Thank you for your responses. Most of you have tried to, highlight the major part of engaging students in doing some activities or giving them some, learning activities kind of things. So yeah, that comes as a part of learner-centric pedagogy. So basically, like all of you have said, making student engaging learning process so that they can, some active learning techniques is what learner-centric approach talks about. So basically, this talks about the active learning strategies, what all of us thinking about. So what are these active learning strategies? Okay, so active learning strategies or techniques, this will allow students to just go beyond teachers listening or copying notes or the execution of prescribed procedures, right? This will also allow students asked to figure things out during the class. Just don't be a passive listener. Then instructor or a teacher can design activities like all of you have said that will require students to talk, discuss, write, or reflect upon, and they can express their thinking also. Okay. So these techniques are, very well or explicitly based on theories of learning, and they have been evaluated repeatedly through empirical research. So this is interesting point, because as a teacher, when we have like experience of 5, 10, 15, 20 years of teaching one main subjects or different subjects, we develop our own methodology of teaching, maybe based on our previous teachers techniques or some readings or our own way of learning. So we try to replicate that over the period of time, right? And based on the results or the students performances, we try to make that as a standard procedure for teaching. So this is one way we can also evaluate our own teaching methods, and you can keep on reading different theories of learning which are available in the literature that will help you to refine your own technique, right? Okay, so to conclude that why we need LCM is, okay, learner-centric approach is required, so that it is required to go beyond listening, to do immediate practice, to figure things out, or to express students' thinking or learning from peers is required. So again, why LCM is required? So we need a change in attitude. Okay, we need to shift the attitude of instructor from content oriented to learning oriented, as well as from how well as a teacher am I explaining to how well these students are learning. Okay. Now, since we have talked about learner-centric approach, what is learner-centric pedagogy? Most of us are quite comfortable with this aspect. I have a question for you. Okay? Consider a MOOC module on a topic that provides a set of 10 short videos. Okay, there's the one topic and you have 10 short videos on that. Now, after watching these videos, the learners are given some practice questions. Okay, this module also has some additional resources on the topic and also have a discussion forum. Is this a learner-centric MOOC? My question to you is this a learner-centric MOOC? You can simply put your choice and one reason for your response. You can unmute or you can simply put on a chat. So let us see, was I able to correctly convey? Okay, no, as it's directives from teachers. No. Okay. So if you're saying yes or no, I would appreciate if you can just, try to give one reason for your choice. So like here it is directives from teachers. Okay, no. If no, why not? What's missing? No required teacher-student interaction. Interaction with student is missing, correct? Yes, students can discuss their doubt. Okay, you're saying yes.
Yes. So student and student interaction is required.
Okay.
In this scenario, the student only watch the video and he can not elaborate what is going on.
Correct.
That's why it's no from my point of view.
Correct. By this we can decode whether the learner has understood or not. How is the assessment done? That's a question from you. Okay, practice questions may be same for all students, so it does not reflect their individual level. Okay, what level of understanding? Okay, so yeah, you have responded pretty well in this part, and I would also agree that this is. Some of you have said yes, but this is not learner-centric MOOC. Okay, this is not, this particular thing is not learner-centric mood. I would like to elaborate on why this is not a learner-centric mood, because some of you have said, or I would say, learners could simply do certain things, such as they could simply passively watch videos or some demonstration if you have shown. They they may simply skip doing certain activities that have been given, and possibly accept those activities that count towards the grade, okay, which are having grades. They can ignore additional resources like most of students do. They may not participate in the discussion forums. Okay, so this is what the learners behaviors could be. Okay, and the initiative is left to the learners for doing the practice reading and resources and learning from peers. This is all left to the learners. So like some of you have said, what's missing? So again, this is something, from the previous slides, that the missing part could be attention to learner motivation. We don't know what is the motivation of the students. Then getting them to express their reasoning, opportunities for micro application, formative assessment, getting instant feedback, peer learning activities, learner connect. So these things could be missing, which we were talking about recently. And also possibly the established theories of how people learn could be missing. Okay, so what needs to be done to make this more learner centric? So like we have already seen, the instructor needs to design activities that require students to do immediate practice, to reflect and express their thinking, go through resources, learn from their peers feedback. This is what instructor needs to focus on. So here comes in a picture the learner centric MOOC model, that is we can call it as LCM model. So it has different components like learning dialogues, learning by doing, learner extension trajectories, learner experience interaction, and these are the interaction lines, or we can term as an orchestration. So these particular element will be known as LED, LBD, LXT, and LXI. So most likely we will be looking at LED only today. Okay. So LED is learning dialogues, and it focuses mostly on content, teaching content plus reflection spots. We will see what this content and reflection spot is. Then learning LBD is activities plus customized feedback for students. Then LXT is resources and assimilation quiz. Then LXI is some focus question for the discussion, as well as peer instruction and reflections quiz. Okay, so I'll take you through the sneak preview of this particular diagram in the form of how you can create learner centric MOOC. So you can think of a typical classroom scenario that we have been discussing, where you have lectures and demos, then you have assignments and activities, then we have instructor learner interaction, that is teacher student interaction, then student student interaction, then we also have additional resources or readings, then normally we have exams and assessments. So this is a typical classroom scenario. And if we have to create learner centric MOOCs, so instead of mimicking it, here we can see these factors or these components, how we can fit into the LCM model. So you can see that lectures and demos can be seen as the learning dialogue forms, and the activities. So it's not just replication of lectures and demos, but similar terminologies in LCM model. Here you can have learning by doing, then you will have response and feedback for these interactions. Then we have LXI for learner interaction. Then these additional readings can be LXTs, and exams and assessment are knowledge consolidation. Okay. So to begin with, I would like to talk about structure of learning dialogues. Okay, structure of LEDs. So like I said, LED is all about content plus reflection spot. Give me a moment. Okay. So what I want to highlight in this particular part is, I want you to think of, or at the end of the session, you should be able to describe the LED structure. Then you should be able to choose a reflection spot. This part is not applicable for this session because it requires additional time to think about dialogue and script writing for your recording. Okay, so let us take a more close look at learning dialogues. So like I said, learning dialogue has concept plus reflection spot. So basically it is used for promoting concept acquisition through learner interaction. So before that, let us see what LED is. Okay. So LED, if you see, this is LED structure, this is LED, you can see that there is a content, there is a reflection spot, and there is a content. Okay. So basically, each LED consists of a short video providing conceptual knowledge with explicit reflection spot for the learner to express their prior conceptions. So here I would show you the dynamics of learning dialogue. I'll come back to a certain part of it. We will talk about it. So if this is your LED, the instructor creates this LED. Okay, students access this content, students respond to this reflection spot, and then again students access to the subsequent content. Now, broadly speaking about this LED, what this content is. So content could be a short video that could explain a concept or even some text, right? As LED promotes concept acquisition through learner interaction. Okay. This could be a video explanation or of the topic that is bit interspersed within the more reflection spots or something like that. Okay. And then what reflection spot is, this particular reflection spot, it's a logical pause or a point where we pause the video. Okay. Instructor pauses in the content delivery where the learner is made to reflect on the content and express their thinking. Okay. So if we have to talk conceptually, it is a question to make learner pause and reflect on the preceding content, and then they can express their thinking. Okay. Or they can do some micro practice. Operationally, reflection spot could be, or can be implemented as a multiple choice question, fill in the blank question, or short answer question. Correct. So this is the reflection spot. So LED can, this is how LED can promote concept acquisition through learner interaction. So this is the part of learner interaction. So what would be the goal of LED? The goal of LED would be to provide conceptual knowledge with explicit spots for learner to express their conceptions, micro practice, and reflect, like what we have seen. So let us understand this through an example of learning dialogue. Okay. So I'll show you. Okay, I'll play the video. So in that video, you could see that one part would be a content, some duration, and then you'll be having a reflection spot. Let us see what it is. We will watch a small video.
Now we come to UDP, which is a far simpler protocol than TCP. So UDP is basically called a transaction-oriented protocol, or it's for simple queries and responses. It is suitable for applications which can tolerate some loss. What do we mean by applications which can tolerate some loss? Essentially, application, let's say you're watching a video, okay, and certain parts of the video are not very easy to see. Occasionally it happens. So applications like that are often built on top of UDP. So the key idea here is that we want most of the information to go through, but we want them to go through quickly, so there is no notion of acknowledgements. And the receiver actually constructs the image or the packet based on whatever information is available. UDP is used for several applications. The DNS, for example, is one of them, or the network time protocol is another of them. Having had a brief glimpse of TCP and UDP, let's take a reflection spot.
So this part of the video, was specifically a content that we were seeing in the LED structure. Now the next part would be a reflection spot.
For which of the following would TCP be the ideal transport layer protocol?
So you could see the way I have been asking you questions during our interaction. So in a video format, you can also have these questions as in the form of reflection spot. Okay, and you can ask students to pause the video, or they can write down answers. Of course, they will not be able to directly respond here at this particular way.
A, making telephone calls. B, do a remote connection. Take a moment to think about it. Which one will be your answer and why? And then proceed.
So here, if you could see that now the teacher is giving the explanation for the question or the answer.
Think about it. We'll see that A and B, which is basically the telephony and the video streaming application, are tolerant to delays. Okay. And the connection-oriented nature of this that are
and then teacher can continue with the explanation as well as the next part, the next content of the concept. Okay, this was a small example of the LED. You can see that the first part, up to 1 minute 12 seconds, this was a content. Then you have reflection spot, and then the summary subsequent content has summary with the expected answer and the explanation, and then there's a continuation. So this is what the whole idea of having LED. So LED is not just a video, but you have reflection spot in between, which will allow students to interact. Now, can you think of one advantage of putting LED, reflection spot from learner's point of view? Just one advantage of having a reflection spot. You can respond in the chat.
Student get hello sir. Student
Yeah.
can get opportunity to response on the concept.
Correct. Yes. Correct. Improve concentration, and we can get idea about their understanding. Okay. Can we get something more? Okay, so let me concentration. Okay. It could help students think out of the box. Attention. Okay. To grab attention. Okay, in that way you're saying. Okay, students will know whether they correctly understood the concept or not. Agree. Feedback. They're made to think. That's the important point. Punctuation in the class. It could help them to think the answers on their own. correct thinking, concept understanding. Okay, so your responses are valid, but to make it more concrete, I would like to say that, of course, we get to know whether learners have understood the previous content or not. That is one of the point I have to say. Okay, like you're saying, majorly it will break the monotony of the instruction. Okay, if it is just monotonous video, putting reflection spot will break the monotony, and also it will help, bringing learner engagement with the content of the video. So these are some highlighted um, advantages of having reflection spot, and that is from learner's point of view. So if we just have to compare broadly the learning dialogue versus a normal content delivery video that we watch, so content delivery videos are normally, they are long in duration. They could be like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, or 1 hour, longer than that. Whereas LEDs are short, so LEDs needs to be around or less than 10 minutes. So LEDs are focused on a topic, that is a chunk of the content. It is not focused on the entire chapter or section, but it is focused on a single concept or a topic. Okay. So this content part could be a short video that is explaining a single concept. Duration could be less than 10 minutes. It could be also text readings or simulations or animation, anything you can work upon that. Okay, so what LEDs have to do is not just promote the concept acquisition, okay, but also to provide conceptual knowledge with explicit reflection spots. That's what the LEDs do. And just to summarize the reflection spot, again, I would like to reiterate the previous things. So it is a reflection spot is a pause point in the content delivery where learner is made to reflect on some content and express their thinking. It could be a question that prompts learner to pause, reflect on the preceding content, correct? And importantly, this could be implemented as one of the followings, like it could be implemented as multiple choice question, fill in the blank, or 1-2 line answer question. Okay. Now, what I have to reiterate certain points. We've already spoken about this reflection spot. Okay. Okay, there are a few points that you need to think upon. We have already discussed benefits of reflection spot, but you need to this point I want to make. Okay, so last point I wanted to highlight here. So reflection spot is not meant as an assessment. So don't consider this as an assessment. This is just a reflection spot where you want to engage the learner, break the monotony, and they should understand the content in a more way. Okay, so there is some research evidence that talks about these things. I'm not going to discuss this part, or maybe I'll just highlight that, one question per 8.7 minutes increase learner engagement from 70 to 86%. Then the average retention rate for LEDs was 70%, as well as it is 55% for regular video. So you can see the LEDs are more beneficial. Okay. Now, okay, so these are the takeaways for you for LED takeaways. So you need to include the reflection spot in your videos, and it should be connected to immediate preceding content. It should not be somewhere else. Now I have been talking about LED versus normal video, but if you want to create your own content, okay, just excuse me for those slides. Because if you have to decide a format of the LEDs, what things you need to consider. So if you just think about the process of content creation, it involves either content creation or curation, but we are talking about content creation if you want to create your own video to be added. So first you need to plan your video and the recording, then you will actually record the video, and then if required, we will be doing some video editing. Now this planning of the video recording would require, preparing content that is like we do as a PowerPoint or PDF presentation. Then you need to identify different parts or the chunks, then deciding the video format. So these are the certain things that we need to think upon. So before I move further, I have a quick poll question for you, for which you need to go to menti.com. But let me just copy this thing. So if you are creating your own MOOC, I want to know if in which of the following ways you will be mostly required to teach the course topic of your MOOC. So here are your options, like presenting using slides. Are you looking for looking at learners, or doing some writing and sketching on whiteboard? Do you want to present while looking at learners, or you want to do that writing sketching while looking at learners, or some combinations of the above? So I have created a poll. I will paste into the chat box. So go to menti.com and enter the code 16312889 and provide your responses. So here you could see this is could see responses are coming up, popping up. All of you can also see that. This is specifically to make you think about your preferences, because if I don't know if you're creating your videos or not, but in case if you want to, it will help you to think before you actually go for making your videos. It will also allow you to know more about different video formats.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
I am not able to enter the code. I open menti.com and Mentimeter is showing on the screen, and please enter the code, and one text box is there. But in text box, I am not able to write any code, because whatever the present code they have given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have to enter whatever the code you have given by you.
Correct.
But I am not able to enter the code.
Just try to refresh your window or click in the text box, because I could see people are able to respond. Okay, so the responses are very well distributed. So maximum people prefer, to create prefer the presentation using slides. Okay, now it is changed to some combinations of the above. Very less teachers are interested to create a video while looking at learners. That's an interesting fact, right? Because yeah, normally in the face-to-face classroom, we are always looking at learners, of course, with the combination of others. Okay, I will wait for a few more seconds and then I can continue.
Sir, looking at learners, you mean to say looking at the camera?
Yeah, I'll get back to this point when I'll explain these terminologies in upcoming slides. Yeah, mostly, but yes, looking at learners, because in camera you'll have to look at the camera so that it will give a feel of looking at learners.
Yes.
Correct. Okay, so let me get back to these points. So if I can see that it's very well distributed preferences that you all of you have mentioned. Now, what all these ways that you are mostly like to require to teach your course or create your own video? So I would be talking about mostly the different recommended video formats. Okay. So there are different video formats you must have been creating, or you must have seen, or you must have watched on different course platforms. The most common is like presentation using slides. That is a slide cast. So you have a slide and you record those slides. So basically, this is a PowerPoint or PDF presentation converted to video with a voiceover. Okay. So basically, this will allow student, to follow the lesson while they can hear the instructor narrating about the content. So to focus, attention on the appropriate part of the slides, teacher can use pointers or some annotations in synchronization with the narration. So that is what is the slidecast is all about. The next format is looking at learners. So the question that was just there now. So it is known as a talking head. So you have so talking head is nothing but you have this is a person talking without any other content. So you don't see any other content on this particular video. Okay, and this remains for the most of the time. Basically, this will give the learners a feeling of making eye contact with the teacher, because yeah, this is the instructor is looking at the camera. So it is same as looking at learners. So why talking head is important? Because talking head is important and useful when teacher wants to emphasize some points using the body language, the gestures, or some expressions which are really important in the natural settings. Okay, especially while motivating students towards a topic or increase their interest in the topic. The next recommended video format would be screencast, that is writing on digital whiteboard. Definitely this will be applicable to relevant concepts only and may not be applicable to all the topics. Okay, so what is the screencast is? This could be a screen capture of some software being used with a voiceover. Okay. This could be useful when teacher wants to demonstrate some actions to be performed while using some software, a tool, something like that. You must have used this part also. The next recommended or most commonly used video format is presenting while looking at the learners. Okay, so that is picture in picture. So you could see this is a slide cast and having a talking head together. So basically, this is a combination of multiple types, such as like I said just now, a talking head shown in one corner of the slide cast. So this is you have a content, and this is the talking head. So this proportion could vary. You can put this at some other corner also. You can reduce the size also. It depends on the instructor choice. And another way of having picture in. So yeah. So why this is useful? Because sometimes teacher wants to have eye contact with the students as well as wants to emphasize some text or visuals on the slide simultaneously. So that is the whole important point of having picture in picture. So another way to use picture in picture could be with writing on the whiteboard, digital board, and looking at learners. If you want to, suppose you're demonstrating some software as well as you want to show your presence. So another interesting recommended video format is tabletop. So this has been very popular in the recent times because everybody had to move from face to face to online, and it is easily possible with less settings, less resources. So basically, as you can see, this is a screen capture of freehand writing on tablet or a table, or writing on a paper, and it is same as working with board in the classroom, if you could see. And this is useful for some demonstration of step-by-step processes or procedures, or solving some problems and derivation or something like that. Okay, so this is really important in those situations. Another video format, recommended video format, is video demonstration. As you can see, it could be a real life video, such as some equipment is being used and some process is being shown. So why it is important? It's actually important to show what actually is happening in that particular situation. So this is simply a video demonstration. And lastly, like most of you have said, a combination of something, or you can have transitions. You can use all these different formats, like from talking head to screencast to picture in picture, depending on the content and depending on your objective. So whenever you want to have eye contact, you can simply use talking head. Whenever you want to learner to focus on content, you can simply use screencast. And if you want to have both, you can use picture in picture. Okay, so these are the some recommended video formats for if you're creating your MOOC. Now, before I could conclude, I would like to take you through LED constructor. So we have seen what is LED, what is reflection spot. But suppose if you want to plan your video making, if you want to create an LED, so this particular PowerPoint presentation is a template. It will allow you to plan your LED. So this is LED constructor. It has given very clear instruction upon how to use this constructor. I will just shortly browse you through this thing. Here you could see that you can identify the title for your video or the LED. You can create the outline, then you can write the script, and then you can refine and rehearse. So the important point in identifying the LED could be choosing a topic, choosing your topic for this thing, then identifying the breakpoints in between, correct? And once you have chosen the topic, you can actually, so this blank slide is to enter your information. This slide is a guideline, and this slide is where you can put your data. You will be able to simply figure out if you are creating this video. So while identifying these breakpoints, you can think upon the explanations, examples, reflection spots, then questions, demonstration, what exactly you want to think upon. So this is similar to class planning, but it's a more of a video production planning. Okay, so you can put your breakpoints in this blank sheets. Now, while you create the outline, after you have decided the LED title, and then you can basically identify the reflection spot position, at what point of time you want to create the reflection spot. Okay, this is what you have to identify over here. So you will you'll have to go through on your own later on. I won't be explaining everything, but this is something that just an additional thing for you. So the important part would be writing your LED script. This is nothing but more of a planning and writing actual dialogues and action items. So first 2 minutes, I will explain this part. Then after 2 minutes, I will have a reflection spot that could be of 30 seconds or 1 minute. And then again, I will explain this part. So these all actions, these all documentation of these actions could come under the scripting. And of course, you can also have, you can also write your dialogues. Whatever you want to say in the video, you can, of course, in a natural setting, we don't need to remember everything. We just continue with that. But for video making, it's better to, prepare your own scripts or dialogues. Yeah. So then you can use these blank spaces to write it. And once you are done with these 3 parts, you can refine the scripts, your content, your slides. You can re-practice or rehearse all these things before the final recording. So basically, this is just to give you an idea of how the templates could work. And this is a summary of LED creation steps. At the end, you can see that. I will share this content so that you will be able to have the access to this. Now, just before concluding, there are some do's and don'ts I would like to highlight upon based on my recent interactions and experience with all the faculties. So most common questions is about eye contact that comes up in how can we ensure, because in live class we have this very habit of looking at learners and having eye contact. So same needs to be maintained while using appropriate video format. So if you're using talking head or picture in picture, or whenever you are facing the camera, be natural and look at the camera so that you can have eye contact. And gestures and movements are really important. So normally what happened, so what I have seen is most of the faculty who are creating their MOOCs, they have this problem while facing the camera. So in classroom, they're very much natural. They do not have any problem in lecture delivery, but the moment they face the camera, they have some problem with the camera in the initial times, not all the times. So they behave in more rigid way. They are like, they don't use their gestures and movement. So I would say that try to use your natural gestures, and if you have any movement, just keep doing that, because your body language is really important even if we are making videos. So you can select appropriate video format and be more natural into that. Don't hesitate. Of course your language needs to be very understandable, even if it is of not a high quality. Sometimes that happens because we do not have that command sometimes, but it's okay. Then there comes a voice part. So voice, so basically again, being natural and having appropriate voice modulations and pitching is required. So which points to be emphasized, which points to be just plainly said, that things you need to be taken care of. Another important aspect is presentation part or a background of the teacher. So don't use much confusing backgrounds or too much background. You can simply have a plain colors background slides, right? Textures, so that it will not distract the learner. And also, if you're using picture in picture and if you're having slides also try to have a decent background so that you can, the learner can focus on the content rather than the other graphics if you're using. And to think about that, use appropriate fonts, font size, colors, all these factors you are very well aware, because in online mode they might be using mobile phones to view your slides or something like that. So accordingly you need to select the size. Yeah, so these are the most common do's and don'ts, and there's a possibility of having another, so others also. I would like to stop with this. So before finally stopping this particular session, I have a final activity for all of you. It's a very quick reflection spot. So I want you to think upon this particular reflection spot. Say you have 6-minute video to be recorded. Okay, so you're recording 6-minute video and you are going very confidently in front of the camera, recording it. And say towards the end of this video, you have made some mistake. Okay, you got fumbled or you wrong sentence, you have said something like that. My question to you is, what will you do at that particular time? So I want to hear from your side. You can post in the chat box or you can unmute yourself and reflect upon. So in order to solve this problem, what will you do at that time? This is a final activity, so yeah. Okay, I think I'm seeing some responses in the chat box. Yeah, Professor Davale is saying, we'll remake the video, retake, trim the video, cut that part by pause. I will say sorry and continue. Okay, editing, retake the particular part, correct it in the next time, correct that sentence only, or after completion, editing, sorry and continue, editing, split the video, So just ignore at that time because it will change the momentum. Then while editing time will edit it. Okay. Best way to edit, accept my mistake and continue. We re-record the part and cut fumbled part. Make corrections and make it again. Yeah, so most of you talking about making corrections or editing. Some of you are saying that entirely retake would be there. Some of you are saying that I won't do anything. I'll just send okay, sorry, and I'll continue. Okay, so basically, since that's why I said, since it is a 6-minute video, it is recommended to it's always better to re-record the video. So make corrections and make it again. Okay, yeah. So we'll go for another video as it is for lifelong, and for next time we'll take care. Yeah. So the whole point is, if you're having option of re-recording it, it's better to re-record it, or you can simply re-edit that particular part also. You can just edit that particular part also. Great. So this is what all I have to talk about the LED as one part of the LCM. And yeah, these are the same responses that all of you have seen just now. Okay, so you can re-record, and then you don't need to start the sentence in between, edit, record entire unit. Okay. Okay, so yeah, this is what the one part of LCM, and like I said, it was more of an informative part. And now I think if there are any questions I can take upon, you can ask, you can unmute yourself, or you can put in a chat box. Anything would do. Okay, how can we prepare MOOCs videos? Yeah, that's what I was talking about. This LED is the MOOCs videos, basically LCM videos. So preparation would, if I have to take you back, preparation would be, first you need to plan your video, how much content you want to cover, and then writing script, identifying chunks, deciding the video formats, then identifying the reflection spot. So this is how you can prepare. And the production, you need to have the camera and everything, the video setup. Yeah. So what is this on website Mentimeter only? I didn't get that. What is the question?
Sir, my question is that you said the website of the Menti, and in that you had given one code, and after entering that code, we were able to log in. Now, suppose I am interested to make my own MOOCs video for the students. I have to go for this Menti website. I have to sign up, and then after I can proceed. That I would like to know.
So, okay, now this is a tricky question, because this MOOCs part, what I was talking about, creating a videos. Now,
Okay.
if you want to have some because once you have created videos, you have no, the live interaction at that particular point of time. So if you want to create some activity for Mentimeter in the video, definitely you can have that slide. But what happens, the Mentimeter, the code stays for like temporary purpose. It is not, after a few months you won't be able to enter the same code and participate in this activity. So it stays for 2 days, I guess. So instead of that, there are different applications, or because it will be on the platform, okay, because it will be on the MOOCs platform, you can simply have that poll question just below the video or after the video, or where students can simply respond over there. Yeah, so that is depending on the feature of the platform. Yeah. And for creating the presentations in Mentimeter, like I shown you, I said menti.com is to participate, but mentimeter.com, you can just log in and create your own this thing account. Yeah. Yeah, I hope I answered. Right. Can you please provide your email ID? Oh, yeah, it will be there in my slides. Okay. Can you help us to create MOOC course SOS? Okay, I technically I give this consultancy if any institute is creating MOOCs. Definitely, it is part of my job also. So if there is some requirement, you can simply let me know what are the requirements. Not an issue. Okay, these are the questions. Thank you very much for your patience and kind attention. I appreciate your valuable presence.
It's a wonderful session, sir. Thank you very much.
Like once the pandemic over, so we will let
Kadam sir is very wonderful and fruitful for us.
Thank you very much, Professor. Yeah.
Sir, one participant is asking question.
Of these informative sessions.
Konduru Raju, can you please unmute yourself and then speak? Any questions from participants?
Okay, sir. We are moving towards the next part. For the same, I will request all the participants to start the videos so that we can have some snaps with the respected guest. Please.
Sonali sir, Kadam sir disconnect झालेत का?
Sorry, actually, I have some power cut at my place, and this my laptop doesn't have camera. There is some technical problem. I couldn't fix it, and the other device I'm not able to connect because of there is no Wi-Fi. I have just check. So yeah, you can simply.
Yes,
sir, your presence is really a kind of pleasure for us. So I think Bhuite madam is taking some snaps. Dr. Kapil Kadam sir, this has been another concert. During session 2, you have given your expert talk on teaching learning process. And in this session, you have focused on designing learner-centric MOOCs. Today, sir has discussed many aspects regarding MOOCs, beginning with the challenges, tabletop, do's and don'ts, and many more. The concept of LED structure is also fabulous. The session has been immense interactive, being activity oriented and quick polls, making sure that the participants do not remain idle. Thanks a lot, sir. I express my sincere gratitude to Dr. Kapil Kadam sir on the behalf of PPKBIT, AICT and IST, as well as all the active participants in this program. We are sure that you will definitely remain connected with us in future also. Thanks a lot, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you very much for all the participants for being patient and participating in the all interactive activities. I hope both of the sessions were useful for you. If there are any queries or anything you want to add upon, you can always contact back. And I believe that it's a really very short time for all of us to interact, and it always becomes less time to interact more, and you might have missed out your queries. You can always get back to me anytime. Thank you very much.
Sir, you can put your email ID in the chat box.
Thank you, sir. I'll do that.
Thank you, Dr. Kapil Kadam sir, for accepting our invitation and excellent sessions in 2 consecutive program number 2 and program number 3. And definitely we will have more interactions in future also. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yes. I declare that this session is over. And for the next session, we'll be again back exactly. So let us remain connected. The next session will start sharp at 12 hours 10 minutes, in which the director of College of Engineering, Pune, Dr. Aujai sir is going to guide us. Thanks a lot.